Hey there, welcome to Professor Purl, a YouTube channel about knitting and other crafts. I'm Nicole, and this is episode 25. It's a perfect square, so 5 times 5. My next perfect square episode won't be till 36. So Professor Purl gets its name because I'm a math education professor. I live in the Pacific Northwest with my husband Kyle and my daughter Matilda, and I love to knit. And I love being a professor too, so I think that's the Professor Purl part. All the show notes for today, everything I'll talk about, all the knitting, it will be linked below in the show notes. So there should be like a down bar that you can click and you can see all the show notes. So I'm drinking this really lovely latte today. There's a local roaster to me in my town, and we went to pick up our coffee subscription there, and I got a oat milk latte, but with flavor. It is a honey cinnamon latte, and I'm loving it. It's not really fitting my sip knit shirt I'm wearing. It's got the wine glass here. I'll have that tonight. So these are my sip knit logos that I've made. I made a wine one and a latte version, and they're available in my Spreadshirt shop, which is also linked below. This is a really cozy sweatshirt. It actually, like, the hood comes up like a regular hood, but it has this kind of cowl neck, which is kind of fun. I'm thinking about ordering another sweatshirt. I love it. Maybe a sweatshirt without the wine, because I don't want to wear this to school. I mean, I can drink wine, but I don't know. I don't want to wear a wine glass to school. Anyway, I'm not sure how long I'll leave these up, like my Spreadshirt shop up. I haven't determined when I'll put a halt to it, but I am enjoying leaving it open right now, because a lot of times when people make an order, they get their order and then they tag me in it in Instagram, and I'm really enjoying that, and it's been really fun. So just talking about sip knit, maybe I want to tell you about a drink I had this week, and then I will hop into knitting because this is a knitting podcast. But I had the best drink this week, and I actually went back to the coffee shop more than once. Now, this is a local coffee shop. It's not a chain coffee shop. So when I tell you the name of the drink, I have to tell you more details, because it's not like you could just order this at your local coffee store or coffee shop. So the drink was called a jack-o'-lantern latte, which is a very cute name. And what was in the jack-o'-lantern latte was dark chocolate, pumpkin. I love a pumpkin drink. And toffee. That's a lot of flavor. I could still taste the coffee, but barely. So it's not a drink for everybody. I actually met up with a friend of mine that lives out here, who I met through this podcast, and she and I hadn't knit together in a year. We met each other through the podcast, met up for coffee a year ago, and it's Holly Knits on Instagram, and it had been a year since we had hung out again. So we finally hung out again, and I ordered a jack-o'-lantern latte, and it was amazing. And I actually went back the next day for another one. It's not the kind of drink that everybody would like, because it's super sweet. So let me know if you have a favorite fall drink. I like any fall drink that involves pumpkin, any. All right, let's hop into the knitting content. I have one finished object this week. I wish I had more. We'll get into that. I've had lots of knitting. I have lots of whips, but one finished object. And it's a tiny finished object, which is the Sophie Scarf. You've probably seen these floating around Instagram and Ravelry. I feel like everybody's knitting one right now. I did the large size, although it doesn't look large. I think that's because I used a sport weight yarn. I did use less than 50 grams, so that's amazing. And it will be perfect for me. I wore the absolute worst shirt to show this to you right now. This is not going to do it justice, but I cannot double wrap it. The size large petite knit in the picture shows it double wrapped. I mean, I can double wrap it, but it's just much too snug for me. This is not a good look right now with this collar neck sweatshirt, but picture this. So I'll just do it once, probably. This is very cozy. Okay, this is not looking good, but like when I tried it on with not a collar neck sweatshirt, it looked really good. So I think this will be a nice color for me. So yeah, I'm really liking this a lot. I definitely want to make another one. I actually just want to cast another one on immediately, but I've got a lot going on, so I'm going to refrain. But I think it is nice for those leftovers or special skeins you have, or this could be a nice gift if people in your life like to wear cute little scarves like that. You could also put it on like a handbag or a purse. It's like a little bow. So the yarn has a nice little fuzz texture to it because it's an all alpaca yarn. It's one of those special skeins to me. I bought it on a trip to Germany several years ago now. I went to Hamburg, Germany, and I went to a yarn store called mylys in Hamburg, Germany, and I bought some special skeins. And I think I've knit all of them now that I've done this. The other yarn I bought was like a cashmere, like a gray cashmere, and I knit Matilda's skirt out of it. And yeah, so I think I've knit all of my souvenir yarn from Germany now. Guess I'll have to go back. Anyway, I think I'll get a lot of wear out of this with like a white button-up shirt. I have a color work sweater that has this blue in it that I think will look really nice. I have enough to make another one in the same color blue. I would love to do that as a gift, but we'll just have to pause. The pattern, very easy. Yet somehow I managed to make tons and tons of mistakes in this, but you can't really tell from the screen here. I haven't blocked it yet, and I usually like to show things on the podcast once I've blocked it, but I just finished it this morning. So I had just a wee little bit to go. I normally don't pressure myself to finish something for the podcast, but I had just a little bit, so I finished it. Anyway, my only FO. If you've made one of these, please let me know if you can double wrap it. Let me know, because I mean, I will maybe give it a shot to show you what it looks like double wrapped. It's possible. It just isn't a super nice look to me. Let's see here. See, like I can do it twice. This is the size large, and like it does go around twice. This is not even with a different shirt, that's not I guess it doesn't look that bad. I don't know. Let me know if you're double wrapping, single wrapping. What are you doing with your Sophie Scarfs? Let me know. All right, we're gonna hop into the whips now. There's a lot of whips, like a lot. I, in general, have a lot of whips, but I'm only showing you the things I've worked on in the last 2 weeks. But I've worked on a lot in the last 2 weeks. I've made a lot of progress, although I haven't finished things. So if you're not like into seeing whips on knitting podcasts, that's gonna be like that's gonna be problematic here. So lots of whips. So last podcast I showed my finished read more socks, and I finished writing up the pattern and did the call for testers, and I have 16 testers that are testing this. So that's like an incredible amount for socks, but it's really good because there's different variations. Like you can knit the socks cabled or with ribbing, and there will be even more variations based on some feedback from like Maddie from We Share Needles on the cuff. So it's going to be a really flexible pattern for you, and I'm having fun like listening to feedback and also just the community of the testers. It feels like a mini knit along, and it's so great. So I knit the pair of read more socks, and I'm knitting another pair with my testers because Kimber from Kimber's Cozy Creations sponsored yarn for it, which is so incredible. And like, look at that color. It's just this icy robin's egg blue. Looks solid, and it is solid, but there's the like most subtle little speckles, which are like little surprises when you're knitting, and I just love it so much. And this is the mini that goes with it. And so it's a really high contrast. Maybe it doesn't look that high contrast in the camera here, but I took a black and white photo, and so did Kimber, and it's a very high contrast and will be great to read the read on the bottom of the sock. All right, I'm just building up to showing it to you. There's a bug. So I'm keeping it in this Halloween bag. I think it's from Sparger, I don't know the name. This summer, that company was having a $15 bag sale, so I bought this Halloween bag in anticipation of spooky season, and it was like, I've been just waiting to use it. Okay, check these cables out on this icy blue. I wish I could remember what the name of this type of cable is, but these are called little pearls, and I just love them because they do look like little pearls. So cute. And when you're duplicate stitching, I've done it both ways, where I duplicate stitch the words read and more, so read more, that's read more socks, on the bottom of the socks. And I did one sock read early, and I did the other one more later when most of the sock was knit. And I found it easier to do when you are partway through, because then it's shorter. So I already duplicate stitched that. This is the second time I duplicate stitched this, because reading my own pattern, like I'm like lazy, like, and so like the chart I made like has 2 stitches before you start the R for my size, and I like just didn't even do that. I just started doing it, and so it was completely off center. And these are going to be like, you know, the finished object pictures for the pattern, so like I need to have it right, so I had to rip it out. Which was, I thought to myself, it might actually just be easier to reknit the sock at this point than rip out the duplicate stitch. I am thinking about making some tutorials to embed into the pattern on duplicate stitching and on cut and heels. Let me know if you would find that helpful or interesting, or maybe you already know duplicate stitch and cut and heels. The thing is, there's a lot of really good tutorials already on the internet. Sometimes it's nice to see a tutorial like in the actual yarn and like the pattern embedded. But anyway, so toe up. I haven't made a lot of progress, but it's fun. And my goal is to finish this by the last week of October. That might be possible. So last weekend, so like a week ago, was the cast on for the Love Note Love Knitalong, and I had a YouTube live scheduled, and there was like, when I was logging into it, there was actually people waiting. I could see them. And I just had a heck of a time getting the YouTube live started, and I didn't understand it. I was not having Wi-Fi issues. It was the weirdest thing. And I would get in, and it was just like turning and saying going live, and then never would let me go live. And so I felt really like kind of nervous about it. So I ended up just going and doing an Instagram live. And a lot of people came to that, and that was just incredible and super fun. But I wanted to save it to my grid so that people could look back later, because we were talking about modifications in Love Notes, like the Love Note math, and it didn't save to my grid. Don't worry, I'm not gonna do a repeat of the live right now, but it was kind of a bummer. I just wanted to show I had tech issues. But when I cast on, what I cast on was my gauge swatch. And I since have done 2 more gauge swatches, and I've been having a hard time with the gauge of this time. So anyway, here's a gauge swatch of what my Love Note will be. Like, this is the color. I'm holding these 2 colors together. They're from Purl and Postulates in Math Education Professor Colorway, part of their Real Women in STEM series. This is a color, my color actually. I got to have input in it, and so I knew I wanted to make something special out of it, and I love the Love Note, so I'm gonna make a Love Note. But I've had trouble with gauge. What I mean by that is, I'm getting, on this particular gauge swatch, 19 stitches in 4 inches, and the gauge is supposed to be 16. And I went down 3 needle sizes, but normally I have to go down 2 or 3 needle sizes. So then I went up a needle size and I was getting 18. And so I'm just trying to decide, like, because I do like this fabric a lot, actually. Like, it's really beautiful, and it feels like it would still be a drapey fabric. It's not like a dense fabric. So one of the things I talked about in my live, which I didn't save, is you can just do math if you like your gauge swatch. Like if I like this 19 stitches per 4 inches, I can do the math and figure out what size to do instead. So I'm just trying to decide that. So I actually haven't cast on my Love Note other than gauge swatch. Some people have already in the week finished a Love Note. It's a really quick sweater because it's a huge gauge and it's beautiful. I'm gonna do a no lace version and do embroidery. Like I was thinking like yellow flowers on it, maybe just like on the shoulder or maybe just at the bottom or something. So yeah, so the hashtag for that is Love Note Love KAL 22. I added the 22 for the year 22 because I'm hoping to do this every year as long as I have a podcast, because I love the Love Notes, and I just think it would be fun to eventually have 10 Love Notes in my wardrobe at least. And there's Ravelry threads are open now too. And Kimber from Kimber's Cozy Creation has donated a prize for the Nicole. She's donated a gift card to her shop, which means, like, I think that's even better than free yarn because it means you can pick whatever you want, like anything. How cool is that? Or if you're wanting to get like a sweater's quantity, like you can use that towards your sweater's quantity, you know? So that's pretty cool, I think. Anyway, in celebration of the Love Note Love Nicole, I bought myself a new bag to put my Love Note stuff in. So about a week ago now, I was kind of having a rough time, like stress-wise with work, and I met up with Anna at, it's called Wild Knits. I've never been to it. It was like 40 minutes from my house, so it was a local yarn store to me-ish that I'd never been to. It was beautiful, and they had a lot of like handmade bags that were gorgeous, and we met up for her birthday to celebrate her birthday, and I felt like it was a little bit like special for me too, just to obviously celebrate my friend Anna's birthday, but also like it was just like much needed time, I think, for me personally. And anyway, so I decided to splurge and get this really nice bag. So like hard canvas. I don't know if this is Pendleton fabric or not, but it does feel like Pendleton fabric. I'm not saying it is. I don't know if it is or not, but it's wool and it's very thick. And then there's these nice, like just really nice hardware. The name of the bag company is That Crafty Little Fox Handmade. I'll link them below. I couldn't be more pleased with this bag. And there's pockets inside. So like I'm keeping my little gauge swatch in there, and I'm loving it. And it's the perfect size for a Love Note too. So let me know if you're joining in on that. I'd love to know. I'm trying to like follow the hashtag and check in on the Ravelry group regularly. Yesterday we had a Zoom night. Anybody is welcome to come to the Zoom night, but it's always nice when I see people knitting Love Notes at the Zoom night too. It's just fun to see the Knitalong. I'd love to know about how that's going for you. If it's your first sweater or your second sweater, or maybe it's your 10th Love Note. I'd love to hear about it. Okay, 2 more whips to show that I worked on, and they are test knits. Okay. And if you watch this podcast, you've seen these before. This is not new, but exciting things have happened on both of these test knits. All right, I was really hoping I'd come with this done, my Lennox pullover by Anna of Bluebird Box Knit, but I hadn't touched it. I think I was just intimidated. I don't know why. I was feeling intimidated, and so I didn't work on it. And Anna posted that this pattern's releasing in like 6 days, maybe 5 days, 4 days, depending on whenever I get this edited up. And I was like, I'm going to have this done before the pattern releases. I am going to. that's a promise to myself that I want to make. And so last night I decided, well, it's my fall break today at my university, which means I normally teach on Fridays. When I'm recording this on a Friday. I would be done teaching by now, but still, I wanted to just kind of celebrate, and I love to stay up late. Like, if there's an option for me to not sleep, I basically never want to sleep. I make myself go to bed, and I do sleep every night, but I don't want to. I just want to stay up and do things. So I said I would treat myself with my fall break and allow myself to stay up really late. And then I said, but you have to do this in order to stay up late, you have to work on your Lennox. It was like my kind of like negotiation with myself, because I want to do it. It was just a mental break, like a mental hurdle. So I stayed up really late and worked on it last night. And what was so exciting is sometimes you just need to start. You just need to start, because I was making it hard in my head, and it's not. Like, it's totally doable. I did manage to make another mistake. Don't worry, but basically where I have made progress is I've bound off the front of the neck, and now I'm working flat. And in about 2 rows, I'm going to be doing short rows on these shoulder caps. And I love short rows, and I love shaping something to fit you. Those are optional. Anna both messaged me, and in her pattern it says it too, that you can skip these, which she recommended doing because I'm playing a yarn chicken. However, I gauge swatch. Even though her pattern says use the sleeves as a gauge swatch, I actually gauge swatch anyway. So I also have a gauge swatch of this. And I do a fairly large gauge swatch, so I don't know. I might be okay. I might not be okay. We're gonna see here. And so I'm going to finish this as much as I can. Basically, the only reason why I wouldn't finish this by the release date is if I run out of yarn. So we're gonna see. And goodness, I was just thinking about this last night as I was working on it. Like, I've been working on this sweater since this summer, which could be like really boring content. Like, you could be like so tired of seeing this, and I don't know, but I just, first of all, thank you for watching the sweater for months now, but also, like, I don't ever want to do something on the podcast just for like the sake of doing it. Like, I don't want to like stress myself out just to try and knit something. I want things to be enjoyable and organic, and so I guess I'm just showing you, like, maybe it takes you an entire summer into fall to finish this garment, and that's totally okay. Particularly this kind of garment, I feel like, is an heirloom garment. It's this kind of thing, when I finish it, I'm gonna wear it all the time. It's a very classic look on a bright neon yellow sweater, but neon yellow could be classic. I've been wearing neon yellows like this since like 2010. I mean, that's over a decade now, so they're here to stay, the neons. But nonetheless, though, you perhaps understand what I'm saying, that it is a lot of work, but it'll be worth it. So that's what I'm gonna do tonight. I'm gonna stay up late tonight. I'm gonna stay up late tonight and work on my Lennox, because that was so enjoyable. It's like Matilda was in bed, Kyle was in bed, and I was just like all by myself. I had a glass of wine. I was watching a podcast. It was just incredible. I was really enjoying myself, and I'm going to do that again. The other test knit I'm working on is the London Dusk pullover by Tammy Gore. Keeping that in this very cool Lisa Frank bag from Stitching Plaza. Lisa Frank. It's like just like my childhood right here. Okay, look at this. So when I last showed this, I didn't have a neckline done. I hadn't split for sleeves, and I hadn't started the body. So I've made some significant progress, and I am in love with this so much. So the yarn is Earl Grey Fiber Company. This dark color is like Plum Tart, and this color almost looks cream on the camera, And to be honest, when I first bought it, I thought it was cream with like purple flecks, but as I've knit it, I've discovered it's actually the palest pink. And I love pink. So the fact that I thought this was cream, but it is actually pale pink, is incredible to me. And there's these little blips of like green and purple. And look at this perfect progress keeper that I had that goes with it. When I bought this yarn it was in 2018, I think, the dyer behind Earl Grey Fiber Company actually gave me this progress keeper at the time. And she was like, "You're buying so much yarn here, I'll give this to you." And I remember it being really special because I was just thinking like, I'm gonna save all this for something really special. I thought it was gonna be a Cipolla from Caitlin Hunter, but when this testing opportunity came up and this yoke is just incredible, I just was like, I want to use my yarn for my stash. It's gorgeous. Instead of just hoarding it and saving it, like, I want to use it, and I'm so glad I did. Okay, not to be like dramatic or prone to hyperbole, but I do believe that this yoke is maybe like the prettiest 2-color yoke I've ever knit. I said maybe. Okay, I'm gonna be more assertive here. This is the prettiest 2-color yoke I've ever knit. I'm just obsessed. These look like stars here. I'm not sure if this is actually what the motif is supposed to be, but to me, it looks like shooting stars coming out. And so I ended up doing the neckline first, even though it's actually one of the last things done in the pattern. It's an I-cord neckline. It's only my second sweater I've knit that has an I-cord neckline. The first one I did was the souffle, which is a totally different construction. This is a circular yoke entirely, and it is colorwork, and I've never done it. It's a little bit wider than a lot of my colorwork sweaters, but it still fits really well. The reason why I did the neckline first is I was unsure. Like, I wanted to try my sweater on to make sure I was splitting for sleeves in like the perfect location. But it's hard to tell when you don't have the neckline done, like where it's supposed to sit. So I felt like I needed to do the neckline to just ensure that I was splitting for sleeves in a good location. And so I did that, and it fits me lovely. I'm only 2 inches into the body. I just keep holding it up because I'm so proud and I love it so much. And one of the things I love about colorwork sweaters in this manner, top down like this, is look at this beautiful amount of like thinking and work and all that. And then your reward for doing that is just like easy stockinette knitting. I love that like interplay of like thinking with like being rewarded with like not thinking with the body. It's just very relaxing. I could just knit these for the rest of my life, I feel like. Nothing else. That's a good question. I always love like kind of would you rather, or like kind of like questions like this. This isn't would you rather, but what's your desert island knitting? You can only knit one thing for the rest of your life, like on your desert island. You don't have to be an island. You could be anywhere, I guess. What's your one thing that you're knitting for the rest of your life? Like, what is it? Let me know. Mine is a colorwork sweater like this. Any weight, DK, sport, fingering, I don't care. But a sweater like this is my jam. Okay, so that was, how many whips was that? That was 4 whips I've worked on actively, which included a new cast on. There is another new cast on, and that is the Stephen West Mystery Knitalong. I'm saving the Stephen West Mystery Knitalong chat for my last whip to talk about, and I'm gonna do that on future podcasts. That it'll just be my last whip in case you don't want to see the Stephen West Mystery Knitalong. Maybe you're knitting it and you just want to just read it and be totally surprised and you don't want to see anything, or maybe you're just tired of hearing about it. So I will have it as the last whip. So You've been warned if you don't want to see this. You've been warned. I tried a Stephen West mystery knit-along in 2013, and it was a flop for me. It was the color craving shawl, and I didn't like it. I didn't like the giant holes in it, and I didn't like the construction. I didn't like the end shape, and so I started it. I think I made it to clue 2 or 3, and I ripped it out. And then never tried one since, and was kind of always like, there's always something that I'm like, I don't know if that's for me. Like last year, those big like curly things that look like shrimps that were big holes. Like I was like, But I felt like I was missing out on like community. And I also felt like I was just missing out on fun. And so this year I decided to do it. I was a little bit hesitant, so I did not buy a kit. I pulled from my stash. And I have been pleasantly surprised. I mean, I shouldn't be. Everybody's been doing Stephen West mystery knit-alongs for like a long time. But for me, it's like I understand the hype now. I'm just having sort of... I got the first clue yesterday, so I'm 24 hours in. I'm in the honeymoon stage early on. When this thing's really huge, I may not feel this way, but right now I'm like, this thing is so fun. And I get it. I get the enthusiasm now. So I'm glad I cast on. So a couple years ago, my mom gave me this color for my birthday. It's Haley Bailey from Salem, Oregon. A local dyer me. I've never met her. She doesn't know me. I love her yarn though. And I think she mainly does crochet designs. She makes me want to learn how to crochet. So I love that color. Also a long time ago, I think my mom gave me this for Christmas or for my birthday. And it is a Wonderland yarn called Looking Glass. So she gave me 2 of these a long time ago. She gave me 2 of these a long time ago. And I always thought I would make like a short sleeve sweater out of like these. This would be I was going to make a Tanya out of this. And I was wanting to do a short sleeve garment out of this as well. But I don't have that many 2 skeins in my stash, and I really wanted to use 2 skeins. And I actually think these look really good together because there's like some hints of blue. So that is, and I did a black and white photo on it, and it has a higher contrast than you would think. Like when I thought about this, I was like, oh, that's going to be a low contrast. It may not look good. It's actually like a medium contrast. So, right. So I'm so early on in this, but I cast on yesterday. Today's my fall break at school, which is like a day off because it's almost mid-semester. And so there was some flexibility in my schedule yesterday because I don't teach on Thursdays in general, but I'm usually prepping for Friday or something like that. So I decided to take some time, catch up on some grading, and reward myself by casting this on. And I did. And this is all I want to do. It's super addicting. And I found my, like, kind of flow with it. Like, where as obscure and weird as this is like a chevron. There's these kind of holes. As odd as this construction is, I found some rhythm to it. And I feel like it's just so fun if you're knitting something just so wacky. It really is kind of wacky. But it's challenging, yet I'm doing it. And I always heard people say like, oh, Stephen West provides like video support. Like I didn't understand like the level. Like, I mean, the first clue, like he literally goes like line by line through it if you have questions. So I mean, that's what amazing. Like, I'm so glad I cast this on. I couldn't be more glad. It just has filled me with an immense amount of joy. So that being said, I did Snapchat Maddie from We Share Needles podcast, and I was like, I'm not into these holes. I am not into these holes. And she's like, hold on, just see it out. And I don't want to spoil things for you, so I won't. But I will say this, I'm no longer nervous about it. I did spoil myself. I went onto the video, I scrolled to the end, and that's what Maddie suggested to do. And now I'm not anxious about the holes. Now I'm at peace with the holes. Anyway, anyway, I just think this is so fun. And the peach yarn, you can't really tell. It has like speckles in it. And so like from afar, just you can see the stripes. But when it's up close, I can see the subtle speckles. But I need your help. So here's where I need your help. There's going to be an accent color, not this clue. Maybe next clue, I don't know. So Anna, my friend Anna, gave me this yarn with a mohair. I was going to do something with them. But I pulled the mohair out, and I just think that this, maybe I'll look better here. I love the hot pink and the peach. I love the blue and the peach. So I feel like this goes so good together. And I love this. So this is what I've been intending to use for my pop. But here's my hesitation. Is that I love it so much that I'm like, I want to save it for something special. Like, because I have mohair with it. I could hold this with something mohair. I want to save this for something special, like a tassels in the sky or like a hat. But I'm like, this is special. It's going to be the pop of my Stephen West. So anyway, this is one option, the hot pink. Okay. I also just showed you my test knit and the color work, the Plum Tart. The thing about the Plum Tart is I'm done with it now. And I have a lot of yarn left. I have a skein and a half of it left. Like, so I have a lot left. So that means I could do Plum Tart with this. Like, this could be my pop. And it looks good, right? It also looks good. So this is option 2. The pro to the Plum Tart is that I think it gives it a more like autumnal look. Because like with these light colors, it's looking very springish, and I'm like knitting this in the fall. And so I think this kind of brings it into more autumn zone. Does it really matter? Probably not. Also, I have a lot left over of it, so I could use it. The other pro of using this instead of the hot pink is then I get to use the hot pink for something else, like something else special. But I mean, I could also use this for something special too. I mean, I don't know. So I just need to pick whatever looks best. But I don't know what that is because they both look good. So this is, call this option 2. This is my first option. This is what I thought. Option 1. Option 2. If you have an opinion, let me know, because I use the opinions a lot. I wasn't even going to use these two together. I was going to use this other color, and then a lot of the comments said to use this, and then now I'm like, well, and I do love it together now, like more than I did before. So, okay. Let me know if you're doing this Stephen West make-along. I'm really enjoying seeing people's color combinations. I enjoyed people's excitement about it. I love to watch podcasts, and so I remember last year watching people's excitement and just enjoying, like, kind of living vicariously through them. But I didn't realize what I was missing out on. I'm so glad I'm doing this. So glad. We'll see how the momentum sticks. Oh, here's my last thing about the Stephen West make-along or knit-along. I'm not pressuring myself. As you can see, I have a huge pile of whips. I have a design I'm working on right now, which is so exciting and awesome, and I'm loving it. I have a Love Note knit-along, which I want a Love Note sweater. I'm gonna knit what makes me happy. That means I fall behind on a clue here. That means I fall behind. I'm not putting any pressure on myself about this. I'm just going to enjoy it. We're 24 hours in, well, more than that now, but we're week 1 on this, and I'm enjoying it, and that's all that matters. Will I finish clue 1 in a week? Maybe, maybe not. And that's okay. I'm running out of knitting bags because I have so many whips. And so this bag I got from Wild Hand, which is a yarn store I visited in Philadelphia, and it was one of the most incredible experiences. I actually have an interview with the owner of this yarn store on my channel if you're interested. So that's all the whips. That's a lot, but It's all good. This is the Professor's Purl segment of the podcast where I connect my knitting life to my professor life. And sort of like the connection I'm going to share this week is something that I've been learning from my Lennox test knit and also the Stephen West. Both the Lennox, like finishing this neckline with like the short rows on the sleeve here, like transitioning from knitting in the round to knitting flat and doing these short rows, I let intimidate me. And for years, I let the Stephen West knit intimidate me. Like I had that one failed attempt at a mystery Knitalong, and I let that stop me. And that's so unfortunate because in both cases, both the Lennox and the Stephen West MKAL, I am filled with sheer joy about doing them. Like when I was able to figure out like how to go from knitting in the round to knitting flat on this neckline here, which was clearly written in the directions, so it was a mental block, but when I was able to do that, I felt so accomplished and so excited and re-energized for this sweater. And in the same way, I was so scared of the Stephen West MKAL, so those shawls look, all of them, look like complete pieces of art and like really complex knitting. And so I find it, like just looking at it, very intimidating. And so I let myself get in my head about both of those things. But I have it in me to do both of those things. Like I am capable of knitting this Lennox. I am capable of doing a Stephen West mystery Knitalong. And what I needed to do to realize that I was like capable was start. And it wasn't like a perfect start in either case, but I just needed to start. Like I needed to resume this neckline. I needed to cast on the Stephen West shawl. And I think I've been thinking about that, like this idea of like just start. And I think that this even relates to a lot of my mathematics students. Like I teach these two classes, these two content math classes to students. So they're math content classes. Most of the students in there will be teachers one day. And we do some tough problems, and I think sometimes students are scared to start. They might have ideas, but they're scared to start a problem because they're scared about being wrong. They're scared of making a mistake. There's lots of things we're scared of. Scared of, like, I think in my students' case, I have them present their solutions in class and talk about it. Maybe they're scared of what others might think of them, or scared about sharing their ideas. And I think I don't really fully understand all the things that were scaring me about the Lennox or the Stephen West, but I do understand that there was an element of me feeling intimidated. And I think the best thing for me was just to try and know that even if I made a mistake, it was going to be okay. And I think that really relates to math. Just try it. Like it's okay to make a mistake, but just try it. But I also think that's relates just in general to life. And there can be a lot of risks in starting something new, and it can be really scary. I think even like this podcast is a example of that. I love knitting podcasts, and the moment I watched a knitting podcast, the moment I watched one, I was like, I want to have like a knitting podcast. But it was years later before I started one, and I'm so glad I did. I'm glad I started. I didn't know how it would work out, but I'm really glad I started. And so, I don't know, I think that's just my challenge for you to think about today is like, what's something that you want to start, but you're letting like fear get in the way. I think it's good for us to all think about that. We've made it to the Sip Sip Knit segment of the podcast. I have 3 things I want to talk about, and that's maybe really and it's a very unfocused 3 things. These are not 3 related things, but they're 3 Sip Sip Knit related things. Well, actually, this is the first one. I don't know. What's your favorite fall drink? I want to know. And basically, I just want to know. It may not be a pumpkin spice. It'll be kind of like mind-blowing to me, but I would love to know what your favorite fall drink is. Mine's anything pumpkin related, as I mentioned early on in the podcast. But there's also like fall teas that I only like to have in the fall. Like, they're not necessarily fall teas, but I associate them with fall. So thought I would bring one to show you. And it's one that you could probably buy at your grocery store. I actually have a hard time finding it out at my grocery stores out here, but I used to live in Illinois and it was very easily, like, readily found in Illinois grocery stores. And that is Harney & Sons Hot Cinnamon Spice. Since living out in Oregon, it'll be my 8th year. This is my 8th year. We moved in the summer. So yeah, this is the start of my 8th year. So it's been a while. We've lived out in Oregon now. I don't find this hot cinnamon spice tea. There's like a sunset one from Harney & Sons. Just Harney & Sons tea in general, I have a hard time finding out here. So because of that, sometimes my friends give this to me for Christmas. And it comes in like a little sachet, it comes in a nice tin. The ingredients: black teas, 3 types of cinnamon, orange peel, sweet cloves. Effects: invigorating. So I just love it. I love this tea, this hot cinnamon spice one. I posted this on Instagram yesterday, and one of my knitting friends messaged me and said that they really like it, and it's like so good they don't even need to put sugar in it. And that I just wanted to share their kind of take on that, because I in general just don't put any sweetener in my tea. But when they said that, I was like, yeah, it is really, if you like a sweet tea, it does have a little sweetness to it, probably because of that orange. Also, I do put cream in it. I don't know. This is fall. Okay, so those are very sip related. Wanting to know what your favorite fall drink is and sharing that tea. Not really related, but the third thing I want to know, and this is where I'm like, maybe this isn't sip knit section, but thinking about how I want to know what your favorite fall drink is, and made me think about what I asked my students this week. This week I asked my students, and they were freshmen in my math class. I said, what is your favorite Halloween movie? And I had choices. I could put their name up on the board under different ones. No one said Hocus Pocus. That was mind-blowing to me. Hocus Pocus 1 or 2. Like, no one in the entire class. And a lot of them hadn't seen it. And nobody said Practical Magic. Nobody said Halloween Town. Like, this is like wild to me. And some people, like half the class, said other. I had a category called other. And so that's why I want to ask you what your favorite Halloween movie is apparently the ideas I have are not like necessarily everybody's favorite Halloween movie. So when they said other, I was like, well, and then the other half of the class said they didn't have a favorite Halloween movie. So I was like, that's kind of surprising. But so for the half that said other, I was like, what do you think, like, what's your favorite movie under other? And they said Scream. I was like, first of all, I would not think of that as a Halloween movie, nor would that ever be in a category in a sentence of my favorite movie, but no judgment. I just was really surprised by it. So at Zoom Knitting yesterday, I asked people at Zoom Knitting about this, and The Nightmare Before Christmas came up, and that was not even one that was on my radar. So anyway, I actually watched that this morning because of that. Since it's fall break, I had a slower morning, and I was like, I'm gonna watch The Nightmare Before Christmas now. So let me know what your favorite Halloween movie is too. We have made it to the personal section of the podcast. If you don't want to watch this part, thank you so much for being here and for supporting the podcast, and please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. There's no more knitting from this point forward, it's just personal stuff. So I like to usually start the personal section off with what I've been reading and what I've read. And it's just been really busy at school, so I haven't read a lot, but I did finish a book called Before We Were Yours, and it's a historical fiction. I think last episode I mentioned it and I said it took place in the 50s, but I think it takes place more in like the 30s and 40s. But essentially it's this era in the United States where children were stolen from their families and then sold for a profit. And so these children were made to be told that they were orphans and sold to families, and were, before they were sold, maybe abused in this children's home. And it was a sad piece of American history. The characters in this book are fictionalized, but the author did a lot of research on it to make their stories as close to what might have happened to some of these children. And I cried several times reading the book, and I think it's a bestseller, so you've probably heard of it, Before We Were Yours. So I finished that. After that, I started reading Braiding Sweetgrass, and I earlier this year read a book called Gathering Moss, and it's the same author. And to this day, Gathering Moss remains to be the favorite book I've read this year. So far my favorite book of 2022, not that it was not written in 2022, but the favorite book I've read this year has been Gathering Moss. I just loved it, and I'm loving Braiding Sweetgrass as well. And it's so good. Both Gathering Moss and Braiding Sweetgrass are ways of talking about scientific ways of knowing and indigenous ways of knowing, and how both of these ways of knowing complement each other, enhance each other. One's not better than the other. They both exist, and they can exist together. They often don't exist together, indigenous ways of knowing and scientific ways of knowing, as our society doesn't put them together, but mainly the scientific community doesn't. But both these books, Gathering Moss, what I enjoyed about it was very just focused on moss. The whole book was about moss. Braiding Sweetgrass, the entire book is not about sweetgrass. It could be there's many chapters about sweetgrass. I feel like the whole book could have been about sweetgrass, but there's many different kind of scientific discussions, like sugaring maple trees. Anyway, if you like science, you would love this. If you love kind of cultural reflections about life, I do think this would be a good read as well. I just find myself constantly thinking about the book Gathering Moss, and the same thing about Braiding Sweetgrass. It's showing up in my life in ways that I didn't expect it to. I'll quit rambling about it, but I love it. Okay, so it's the recreational reading. In terms of life stuff, there's a lot I could share. We've been really busy having a good time, but what I thought I might share, instead of just a play-by-play of everything that I've been doing lately, I thought maybe I would share just a tiny thing I've been doing that's been life-giving and joyful. So I often want to journal, but I'm not consistent about it. I don't do it every day. I'm very good at planning. I have a planner for my life. I have a planner for my teaching. I have planners for Matilda. I have lots of paper planners, and So I'm always writing, making lists and things, but I'm never like intentionally journaling daily. And so there's this kind of stationary planner company called Erin Condren, and I got this notebook from them. It's kind of like, you can see you can see the light, the ring light showing up here, but because it's shiny. But essentially, there's this cover, like a laminate cover, and there's these foiled leaves, and it says, "When you find balance, find peace." So, like a little known fact maybe about me, because this is a knitting podcast, and you maybe wouldn't know this, but I'm like a workaholic. Like, I'm somebody who will just like maybe work way more than I need to, and will also find a lot of my identity in my work. I think this is very typical of professors. Like, I'm surely not the only professor that feels that way. And I also think teachers, like, I'm sure maybe in your career you can relate to. I just find a lot of my identity in it, and I overwork. Before I had Matilda, I would easily work 12 to 16 hours a day. After Matilda, I no longer work 12 to 16 hours a day, but I really could easily like fall into those habits again. That being said, I want to be intentional to not find so much identity in work and not only work, if that makes sense. So this journal, I'll show you what one of the blank pages looks like. It has like a list, and then this piece here, and then like lines. And so, and then it has like 7 of those pages, like, so it's like set up to be like a daily journal kind of. And then it has these spaces at the end of the week that say like how the week went, what I'm proud of, what I'm carrying into next week. And then it changes color, and then it makes you start off with a similar thing to think about the next day. So I've been doing it Sunday to Sunday, and I've been journaling daily for 3 weeks now. Now, not like intense journaling, not deep journaling, like, you know, like deep reflective thoughts or something. I've literally just been journaling ways I'm not working. So every day, I'll show you a page. Here we go. Every day I write a list of things I did that are not work related, and also maybe not like household related. Like, I wouldn't write like I vacuumed today. Like, I just am putting down things that are like human that I did that aren't work related, or like just house maintenance or home maintenance. Okay, this is a bad example of the one I pulled up, because the first thing I wrote is grade papers between class, and that's definitely work related. So that shows you that is something I have to strive for. But I think I probably put that as like a joyful thing, because sometimes I save grading for home, and then I'm like working at home again, and here I was like trying to do it between classes. So maybe I was just trying to be proud of that. And then I did like knit, took a walk at lunch, listened to an audiobook, MJ violin lessons together, watch MJ swim. So I did like a list of things I did that are not work related on October 5th. And then I have a little printer that's like a sprocket printer, and I print off a picture from the day and put it in there. And then I journal about what I'm feeling like there. And I'm doing it like in the same pen. You can see I'm not doing like lots of things, so it's not like overly cute or anything, but just doing it. And I've done all these pages so far. And so I have a picture for every day and a list of things I did that are not work related. And it's just kind of filling me with joy to see like, look at all these things I do. And the title, like kind of the cover of this is "When you find balance, you find peace." And like, good balance for me is like, I love work, I love working, I love my job, I love my career. So like that, I love my family, things like that. I love knitting and reading, like where I'm like doing something in all these pieces, like that's balance. But I think work is so time consuming that like it can pull you away from those other things. So I think this is a way to kind of help me balance it, if that makes sense. So it's just something I wanted to share because I've been really enjoying that. Yeah, we've just been really enjoying outside time and the weather. It's just, I'm wearing a sweatshirt, but I'm probably gonna have to change here soon. It's 75 degrees Fahrenheit. It's gonna be a high of 82 degrees Fahrenheit today. So it's been just a really warm, sunny fall here in Oregon, where we live. And so it's just, we've been enjoying that. And I mean, I even was like doing yard work the other day. Last weekend, Kyle, Matilda, and I went to the zoo after Matilda's soccer, and we actually met up with my seniors. A bunch of my seniors were going to the zoo, and they invited me, and I was like, well, it's not often that like your college kids invite you to do something, and so when they do, you should show up. So the three of us met up with my college students and spent the day at the Oregon Zoo together, and that was really fun. And I don't know, and I've just been really cherishing Matilda's activities, like just soaking up this age and this time, because it's just, she's 4 and well, almost 5. She'll be 5 end of November, and just like, to me, I only have one child, so I don't know any different, but like, to me, this just feels like an amazing age. I'm sure every age is amazing and it'll just get better, but like, I don't know, it feels really, really fun right now, and I'm just trying to treasure that. So that's also what's been really fun about journaling, is just trying to capture some of those little nuggets of memories. I know we take pictures on our phone and stuff, but it's nice to have it like in a notebook. And anyway, I'm rambling now, but thanks so much for watching, and let me know if you have any fun fall plans. I think next week's Rhinebeck, and I'm not going, and I'm kind of sad about it, and I'm trying not to be sad about it because I made the choice not to go. So that's my choice. and I'm really looking forward. So I'm like repositioning my attitude here now, just I'm really looking forward to seeing all the podcasts and vlogs about it, so I can like enjoy it that way. I think next year will be my year, fall 2023. I think this goes in line with my just start sort of advice from Professor Purl's. The main reason I canceled the trip, like I literally had a hotel booked, everything, was I was scared to go by myself. Like I was scared that I would go and like not have anybody to hang out with, and that's like kind of silly because everybody there wants to be knitting friends, right? So I feel like I could go up to a stranger maybe and they would probably like hang out with me, right? Maybe not, I don't know, but I just think I need to start. I just need to do it, and I think that theme is sort of just kind of popping up for me this episode. So anyway, I hope you have a really great week, and I look forward to hearing about your fall plans, or you know, all that. Anyway, happy knitting.